welcome to another Unreal Engine tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to get fluid interactions between the player and water working. I was having a lot of problems with this on my own world, which is on a Heightmap, which I'll also show you guys how to get this working at Heightmaps, as there are some issues with Fluid Sim not wanting to work properly. But we're going to do the testing for this on a regular level, but I will pop in at the end to show you that it is working on the Heightmap if you make the few adjustments I talk about throughout this video. Alright, so let's get started here. First things first, we're going to want to make sure that Fluid Sim is in our level. So what you're going to want to do is come here to the content drawer and go to the all section. You can also search for this in the engine section, doesn't matter. We're going to search for Fluid Sim, and we're going to pull Fluid Sim 01, this file right here, BP Fluid Sim 01, out onto the level. We're also going to drag out our dynamic force component. This is going to allow us to visualize to see if fluid simulation is working when a force is applied to it. All right. So, a few things to start here. We are going to make it so that we're able to see our Fluid Sim. So to do that, we're going to scroll down to Show Simulation Mesh, and we're going to turn off Follow Player for right now. If you leave this on, it will only play the impulse when it is within essentially the range of the player. Your player would be the center of this square, and this square would move around with you. For us to test this right now, we don't want it to follow the player because when we start the simulation, the player is going to be spawning somewhere over here and not right here where the fluid dynamic force is at. All right, there also are some other options here that I'll go through and show you guys as well. Now, to make this work, we're also going to increase the radius of our dynamic force component, just so it's a little bit easier to see the effects here and what we're moving around. All right, so now that we have both of these on our scene, if we press simulate, I'll show you this. The simulate level is right here in the top right of the play section. You can also access it by clicking the small triple dots right here and clicking simulate. If we go ahead and do this and we move around the dynamic force component, we'll get an interaction with the water. Now, if you are on a Heightmap, you might not be seeing this interaction, and that is because your Fluid Sim might be below Z of 0. So your Z location must be 0 or greater for this to work. Now, there are some workarounds that you can do for this. One of them is actually just moving the location of your Heightmap down. So it might say that it's at 0Z, but that's likely the root point of the landscape, not the actual point where your water is at. So a way to fix this is essentially just grabbing your entire landscape or your entire Heightmap and moving it up or down. And this will make it so you can get to that value. The way that I always test this is I will physically move the Fluid Sim to 0 and then double click Fluid Sim so it brings me to its location or highlights its location. I will then go to where it's at, and then I will scale the landscape so that way the shore matches just right with the 0 on the Fluid Sim, or a little bit higher. It just has to be at least in the 0 range for 0 or greater range for this to work. Same thing with your dynamic force component. It has to be 0 or greater in the Z location. Hopefully that helps some of you guys that are trying to get this working on a Heightmap. Like I said, I will show you it working in my Heightmap here at the end. All right, but if we simulate level, you should see this interaction then. Interaction is a little bit rough, but we can adjust this as well. That way it's not so spiky. So the way that we do that is we go into our dynamic force component and we can tone down the strength of the force. So if we were to cut this in half, we are already getting smaller crests on the wave here. Okay. There is another section that we can also test here that has some interesting effects. So you have shallow water testing and ripple solver testing. For oceans, I really recommend using Ripple. It seems to be a little bit more efficient for large bodies of water. But if you use shallow water in Simulate, oops, sorry, I'm clicking the wrong thing here. You're going to see that it's a lot spikier, and it does create foam as well. We can try and tone this down a little bit. Let's see here. Shallow water. So default water depth, I believe you're going to want this pretty close to 0. If you go to too high of a value, that is going to cause that weird spiky interaction. Yeah, so here we go. So if we turn it down to something like 5, we're getting the ripple effects without the giant spikiness. Now this is a very small effect. I think this is great for things like puddles, which is why they call it shallow water. But you can do a lot of cool stuff with this in trying to kind of make this fit your needs if you want. We could maybe bump this up to 10 real quick. And grab the dynamic force component. And we get a little bit more of that. We still get a little bit of spikiness though once we go up above 5. So you can kind of mess with this and figure out maybe what values work best for you. But for today's video, we're just going to stick to Ripple Solver because that's going to be the most useful for us when trying to make water interactions with an ocean or a lake. All right, so how do we actually make it so that this works with our player character when they walk in the water? Because right now, if we click play and we walk over here on the fluid sim area, we're not getting that interaction. And that's because our character's body is not seen as a dynamic force. So what we're going to do is create some sockets along different parts of the body so that way we can create this water interaction. All right, now we are going to be using the built-in dynamic force skeleton. Now don't be scared. When you put this guy into the level, you don't see that it's working, but I promise you it is. What we're going to do though is actually take a portion of this dynamic force skeleton's code, and we are going to stick it into our third-person character. All right, so what we're going to do is pop open his blueprint section, and we are going to see a short line of code here. We have delay, get sim. You should have all of these options. What we're going to do is copy and paste this into our character blueprint. Third-person character blueprint. Here we go. All right, just put this anywhere. We are going to be running this off of a custom event here. So add a custom event. You can call it anything you want, really. I'm just going to call it water interaction. All right, and then we are going to go through and see that if we were to try and compile and save this right now, we're going to see that we're getting a lot of errors. And that's because we don't have the variables in our own blueprint. These are variables from the dynamic force skeleton. So what we're going to do is add all of these to our variable section. We're going to go into the get sim2 section here, and we're going to create variable sim. Then we're going to back arrow back out. We're going to go to fluid force dynamic settings, create variable. And then we're also going to delete the skeletal mesh sections here and add in our character mesh, which is mesh character mesh 0. If we drag this in, we'll attach this to the force component and the tracked component. And now, if we compile and save, we won't be getting those errors. But this isn't as simple as just dragging those in and getting this to work because we don't actually have the components excuse me, that the dynamic force skeleton is using within these dynamic settings. To maybe make this make a little bit more sense and not be a word salad, well, let's open this up. So click on fluid force dynamic settings, click on the down arrow, and now we have a couple different options here. We have something called force types, We have skeletal mesh sockets. And what we're going to want to do is actually add in these sockets to our character blueprint mesh itself. So first off, we're going to come here to force type. We're going to select skeletal mesh sockets, compile and save. Now we're going to go to the BP dynamic force skeleton. We're going to open up its fluid force dynamic settings, skeletal mesh setup, and sockets, and we're going to copy and paste the sockets that it has here. So to do this, you can hold down shift. Oops, sorry. We will hold down shift and right click. That will make this flash, and that means that it is copied. And now we're going to go into the BP third person character, and we're going to hold down shift and left click. So now we have copied and pasted in all of these sockets here. Now what we need to do, first off, compile and save. Now what we need to do is make these sockets on our character. Now these sockets are named in a really easy way to where we can just add the socket and it will already have that name because it is the defaulted name. So to do this, we're going to click on the mesh character, character mesh 0, click on the skeletal mesh asset, and once we do this, we are going to have this window that pops up. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to back to the BP third person character. We're going to go to the event graph here, click on the fluid force dynamic settings, and then we're going to undock the character mesh skeleton. This way we can see exactly what sockets we need to add without having to flip back and forth between the two windows. All right, so we're going to start off with adding the middle underscore 01 sockets. So if we type in middle 01, we will see we have middle 01 left and middle 01 right come up, just as we see here. We're going to click on the bone, should highlight it here. We're going to click this plus button by the search bar, click add socket, and that's it. Now we're going to do the same thing for middle 01 underscore R, add socket. There we go. Now we're going to do the same thing for our foot underscore L socket. This one's not right, so we're going to go ahead and add in another one, add socket. There we go. Add socket to the foot right as well. Default name, just double check it here, foot underscore R socket. There we are. Now we're going to do the same thing for the calf sockets. Click on calf underscore R, add a socket. Calf underscore L, add a socket. All right, next is the spine 03. Now we will click on spine 03, add a socket. And there we go. We will save this. We will compile and save. Compile and save. All right, now let's see if this will work. Okay, so we're not getting our interactions yet. So let's see what we can do to finish getting this working for us. Let's go to our fluid sim. Let's have this on follow player. Let's see if this will follow the player first. Okay, there we go. It's following the player. All right. Let's go ahead and lower this just a touch more. Okay. So what can we adjust here to get this working? Let's see. Oh, it's because we're not actually running our function here. So what we're going to do next, sorry about that, is we are going to actually run the water interaction custom event. So there's a few ways that you can do this. I don't recommend using event ticks for very large scale projects. There is a small performance hit, but for the purposes of today's video, we are just going to do an event tick. You can also wrap this up into overlap functions. So when the player overlaps with water, you're able to see this interaction. But for now, we're just going to do event tick, and we are going to call our water interaction function and compile and save. This should be almost good. One other thing here, we have our water level. So what we want to do is get the essentially the water level at where it should show us the dynamic forces. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of water level, type in get world location. There we go, get world location. Okay, we're going to break the return value structure pin. So now we have our X, Y, and Z. The only thing we are interested in is the Z component. And now we're going to create a child actor that is the fluid sim. That way the fluid sim is always at the character's feet. To do this, we are going to click on the character mesh. We're going to add in a child actor. So you can click on your mesh, go up to the add button, type in child actor. We're going to just keep it named child actor. You're going to come over here into the child actor class, and we're going to type in fluid sim 01. All right. Now, if you go to compile and save after adding it, you're going to get an error here. That's only because we have not called our target yet for the world location, which will be our child actor. So once you drag child actor into the target location, compile and save, this should be working now. One other thing we need to do though is delete our fluid sim. So we're going to delete our fluid sim here and our dynamic force input here. And now when we click play, let's see if this works for us. There we go. So now we're getting water interaction. One thing that we can do to help this look even more realistic is go to the collision section of your water and click overlap all. This will allow it so that we can actually walk inside the water. And now we have fluid interactions. Now, like I said before, you can tune the amount of ripple and spikiness that you get by going to the BP third person character, going to the fluid force dynamics. We can adjust the strength here. So let's go to 0.5. Let's see what this looks like now. Yeah, there we go. So now if we go to 0.5, we are getting a much better reaction. So I hope this video is helpful for you guys. I'm going to show you as well on my world, just that I was able to drag that down the Heightmap and get it to work on a Heightmap. All right. So let me open up another project here. Okay. We will go to our, wait for it to pop up. Here we are. So like I was saying, on a height map, you're going to want to make sure that you have your Z value scaled down, so that way the actual surface of the water is above 0Z. And if anything is 0 or greater will let you have this fluid sim effect. Anything below will not. Wait for this to load here. Got a lot of plugins and assets in here. Okay, we're going to go to File, Open, Game World. All right. Another thing to note too, when you are adjusting water on your height map, I typically will have it so that terrain effect is turned off, affects landscape here. You can have this checked or unchecked. If you check this though, there is a blending section that you're going to want to utilize. That way it doesn't destroy parts of your height map. But so what I did here, if you click on my landscape, you'll see that the Z component is actually minus 5,296. And that's because the bottom part that the Z is measuring is down there. But that puts my water level right at about 0, which is what we want. So just make sure that you scale that Heightmap Z location, and it will start working for you. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or have any problems, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I will try to help you diagnose the problem here. And thank you guys for watching. If you found the video helpful, please leave a like and maybe subscribe. I'll probably be posting some more guides here soon, as well as maybe a first kind of preview into my kind of game development journey here. I'm making my very first game project, and pretty excited to share it with you guys here soon. Alright, thank you guys for watching, and have a good rest of your day.